Hello and welcome back to another episode of my MotoGP 22 career mode, and today we're here for the 8th round of our MotoGP season at the Dutch TT Assen. Now if you haven't seen the last episode, I do recommend you go check that one out before you do get into this one at the Saxon Ring, because it was a pretty interesting weekend overall. But of course we surprisingly showed pretty decent pace, not quite top level but pretty good. But unfortunately we got kind of stuck in a bit of a train. I started pretty well on the grid, had a massive sort of front end moment, managed to save it around a mega corner, lost a few positions and then struggled to try and fight my way back through towards the leaders. Was kind of getting there, but then we had contact with Jack Miller, down I went, but then there was only 1 point scored in the end as we were unable to pass Franco Morbidelli for P14, so it was 15th place at the German Grand Prix, which was pretty disappointing and cost us the lead of the World Championship. But heading into Assen, I'm not really sure what to expect. Again, like I've been saying all season, it's been so strange and the weekends have just not panned out how I expected. I don't really know what to expect, but usually the player is pretty good at Assen. It is one of those tracks where you can sort of make the difference against AI. It is a rider's track after all, it's very known as such, and usually you can try and take advantage of the AI there, but sometimes they're actually not too bad. It does vary from game to game. Some games are a little bit better here than others, especially since they've slowed down the direction changes for the player in the last few games. It's made the AI a lot more competitive at Assen. But back in Moto 2, we had a crash on the opening lap and managed to remount and get back up into 5th place by the end of the race. So it does show that their pace isn't quite there, but I was pushing quite a lot in that race, so you never know 100% how it's going to go. But without any further ado then, we'll head into the weekend, and I'll see you after practice. Hopefully we have got the pace, because we do need to try and get some points back on Bastianini. So at the end of free practice then, you can see Luca Marini is actually top, 27 thousandths ahead of myself in second. Still less than a tenth off the top time. In third place, Johan Zarco. 4th place for Fabio Quartararo, a couple of tenths behind, and Marco Bezzecchi in 5th place. So interesting that neither of the factory Ducatis really feature much. Bastianini down in 11th, and where is Bagnaia? Bagnaia down in 20th place, 7th Brad Binder in 21st. A bit of a shock to see those two so far down the order. But seemingly the pace is quite good at this circuit. I was a little bit alarmed initially because I struggled to sort of do the practice program times, but after a few laps I'd got into the groove of it. It's just one of those things where when I play GP bikes and MotoGP so regularly, I have to swap between the two, and it does take a few laps to swap from one physics set in my mind to the other. But once you've done that, the pace is pretty much there. So then hopefully we should go straight through to qualifying 2 with that, since it is FP3. So we'll head into Q2 now, and I'll see you there. Never mind, we're actually 13th on the combined times. You see Bagnaia is top. They are quite a lot faster, it seems, on the simulated times than they are on track, which isn't ideal, but looks like we're going through Q1 then. We've done it a couple of times. In fact, I think the last 2 races we've had to do that now, so it's a bit of a recurring theme. So we'll get into Q1. If I get straight through, probably won't include it, but if I don't, then you'll see Q1. So that was actually pretty easy, just one lap, soft, power 3, very good lap time, you can see there, 31.2. I think that probably would have put us top of the combined time, to be completely honest. But interestingly enough, Aleix Espargaro is actually coming through with us, so Enea Bastianini, the championship leader, has gone out in Q1, which is a disaster for him, but it's great news for us because it gives us a great chance to try and get that championship lead back. So let's head into Q2 now then, and I think, to be honest, we've got a pretty good chance of getting pole position. So that was actually a pretty easy session, to be honest. The lap actually wasn't that good. I made quite a few mistakes on it, but soft power 3 seemed to carry the lap time. So if we just try and do that again, we've got a pretty good chance of getting pole, to be completely honest, because I think we're quicker than what they were doing in free practice. And of course they will take a little bit of a step, but maybe not quite that much. And sometimes they don't make a step at all. Sometimes they actually are quicker in free practice. Obviously it does depend on the simulated times. But let's see what we can do. Hopefully we can try and get into the 30s. If I do a good lap, I think it's possible. This lap has actually been probably worse than the Q1 lap, so as we come up towards the line, let's see what it's going to be. 1 minute 30, 1:31.3, so a tenth slower than in Q1. That might be enough, might not be though. We'll have to see how the AI go over the rest of the session, but it wasn't particularly a great lap. I made a lot of mistakes. Like I said, I think there is a 30 on the table if the mistakes are lessened, but turn 1, another mistake at Strubben, a few mistakes around the lap, so I'm actually quite surprised that it was only a tenth slower than Q1 because it felt a lot worse. Although, again, like I said, that lap wasn't particularly great either. So as you can see, at the end of qualifying then, it actually was good enough for pole position in the end, which is a little bit of a surprise when you think that they did 31.5s in free practice, and no one actually managed to even top that in qualifying except Bezzecchi. I was expecting that they'd at least make a couple of tenths step, but it doesn't seem that way. It does seem that they struggled a little bit more in this session. So Bezzecchi is 2nd place, Vinales in 3rd, Marc Marquez in 4th place. So once again, at a track where you wouldn't particularly expect it to go well, he's up there. Although, in fairness, I suppose Assen is a rider's track and he's won there a couple of times in the past, but once again, wouldn't expect him to be there. But Bagnaia, someone who has gone pretty well at Assen in the past, is all the way down into 12th position, which it's ridiculous. I don't know how he's 12th place. He's a second off. He's miles off everybody else. Marini, his time is only 11th place. He was actually second place when I ended the session. So I think some of the AI just haven't improved. Like Banyai's at a 32, Marini's at a 32, everybody else is in the 31s. So definitely puts them at a disadvantage. But championship-wise, it's looking pretty good for us. Obviously, Jack Miller probably is the biggest threat out of the top few. And Bastianini didn't even get through Q1. He's down in like 14th place on the grid, so he's not starting in a particularly great spot. But Jack Miller in 5th place there, he's only a few points behind us in the championship. So really, he probably is the main target because we'll probably both jump back ahead of Bastianini if he finishes around 13th where he's starting. Without any further ado then, let's head into the race now then. It could be anybody's because you know what they are like. They could be pretty aggressive. It could also be one of those races where I dominate. We have seen it in the past where I have pulled away from pole and won. But we've also seen it where I've put it on pole and then struggled in the race. So you never know what's going to happen with this crazy season. So I'll see you down on the grid. So then here we are down on the grid for the Dutch TT, looking at Maverick Viñales in 3rd position. Probably the first time he's really delivered this season. I've expected him to be up there a little bit more, but he's really just not been there at all. It's been a strange season, like I keep saying every episode, because riders I expect to be there week in, week out, like Bagnaia, for example, he's just never there. Like, he's there occasionally, but then doesn't even really finish the results. He's not even won a race yet in this season, which is hard to believe when you look at what he's done in real life so far with all the wins he's picked up, and last year how many wins he picked up as well. But the game just doesn't sometimes react that way. He should be the best AI, really. I might have to go back and adjust the AI a little bit, but I don't want to kind of mess with the championship order, if that makes sense, because now it's starting to settle in as we're getting towards half race or half sort of season distance. I don't want to kind of mess with Miller or somebody like that, make them slower and make the championship a bit easier, so I might just keep it how it is for now, at least in my career mode save. But in terms of tyres, I think we're going to go with the medium, as we always do, and just try to take it easy. I want to try and pick up a win, of course, and bounce back, but like I said, Bastianini is down in 13th place on the grid, which does put us in good stead. We've just got to try and beat Miller if possible, because of course he probably gained a few points back on us in Sachsenring, obviously after he remounted, so he's not actually that many points behind us in the championship, so we do have to watch out for him.
There's something magical about racing at Assen. The crowd is ready, the riders are ready, we're ready, and in a few moments we'll see the start of the Dutch Grand Prix.
So there we go then, on pole position, Bezzecchi alongside us, Viñales rounding off the front row, and don't count out Marc Marquez behind us as well. The lights are on, wait for them to get here. Lights out and away we go for the Dutch Grand Prix with a pretty decent start off the line. We've taken the lead, well we've kept the lead at least, going into the very first corner of the race, clipping the apex beautifully. That's probably the best I've actually done it all weekend so far. There's been a crash behind. Don't think it's any of the top guys that have gone down, but it could very well be someone a bit further back like Bastianini or Bagnaia that have been involved in that accident. So that could be quite big for the championship. But so far, 0.4 of a second lead over Marco Bezzecchi. We've managed to hang on to the lead through this first sector, which is always good. Usually you do have the advantage off the line, but sometimes the AI do something quite special. And look at who's in 3rd place now, Marc Marquez onto the podium. This could very well be a Magella repeat, although I've made a bit of a mistake to the Ruskin hook onto the green. Track limits warning. Actually, no, it's not a track limits warning. I guess I did lose a lot of time there, but that's put the AI right back onto the back of me as we're approaching the sector where they're better, so there could be an attack here from Bezzecchi in a few corners' time. So here we are then. This is a section where I did seem to have an advantage in the practice sessions when I was following them. So we'll have to see if Bezzecchi does go for anything. That was risky, so close to the grass there for me. A little bit wide through the ram's hook, and there goes Bezzecchi. I think we both kind of picked up at the sight of each other there, and that's messed us both up a bit. We've got a bit wide through the chicane, and Bezzecchi's gone through a bit of contact with Bezzecchi. I was trying to actually get turned to the chicane, but we've dropped down to 3rd place now then, so what had been a good start, we've suffered a little bit there. We've lost a position, but back around the outside of the pair of them. Is that how early they break for turn 1? That's ridiculous. Well, disaster averted. We've retaken the lead in my best sector, so let's try and pull away again. I must say, we did get away very lucky not to pick up any damage, not to crash. Same with Bezzecchi as well, because it was very awkward. But because I sort of blew the chicane, I was stuck right on the apex, and Bezzecchi didn't really alter his line at all to avoid me. But again, that's the AI on this game. They don't really care about you. This is where MotoGP 23 kinda worries me when they say that the AI can be more aggressive with you if you annoy them when they're already that aggressive and that reckless. So this lap, try not to make the mistakes that I made, especially through the left-hander and then into the timber chicane. If I can hit the braking point for the timber chicane right, we should be pretty good. We've picked up a track. Well, that's not a track limits warning apparently. That is a little bit unfair, must be said. I might roll off a little bit there to give the AI that time back. That definitely should have been a track limits warning because I was all over the green there. Just shows it's a bit inconsistent with the track limits. Because I do try and keep in the track limits. I try to keep it fair. I know sometimes the AI don't necessarily, but I do want to try and keep it as fair as possible in this career mode. And just for my own standards, really. You don't want to see me cutting corners or anything, which was a pretty big mistake. We've now opened the lead up to 1.1, so I might just roll off a tad here, just to let them get a bit closer again. And there we go. I think that's more than enough time given up. That was about half a second, probably a bit too much, but oh well, doesn't matter too much. We've got that time back up, and hopefully we should be able to pull away. It does seem like if I can hook it up, we are quicker. So then at the end of lap 3, Bezzecchi does the fastest lap, 32.4, slightly faster than what I did. Although I did give up a lot of time on that lap through the first sector, so if I don't do that this time, we should be able to pull away from him. I'll tell you what, Bezzecchi is all over the back of us now. He's pulling away from the rest of AI, even though we're a little bit quicker than our previous best lap time. He is right there now, only a couple of tenths behind us, and I'm sure he'll be trying to pass us as quickly as possible, especially with, once again, this sector being probably slightly better for the AI, so we really have got a race on our hands. You can really hear that Ducati behind us now as we go into the timber chicane. Getting the direction change. We've done that one pretty well up towards the line. Then what's this going to be on this lap? 1 minute 32.4. But the fastest lap actually goes to Marc Marquez. So Marquez is coming as well. So I thought it was just Bezzecchi, but it seems like all the AI have picked up their pace. So I've got a bit of a race on my hands now. I really need to try and pick up my pace if possible, because they are a bit quicker than me now. So Bezzecchi is literally in our camera shot now. Bezzecchi is right there as we flick it right through the second valve. He's going to surely attack us. I know they're pretty strong on the brakes into the bolt, so he might try and go there. And I'm still getting faster and faster every lap. It's just the AI that one step ahead, especially with the tyre, where as you go through the race, they do seem to improve throughout the race. They're always slower at the beginning. And here goes Bezzecchi at the inside through the Mandovi. We've had to pick up the bike a little bit there. Marco Bezzecchi, the Italian, takes the lead, and Marc Marquez is at the inside as well. I wasn't expecting both at once. I knew Marquez had made some inroads, but I didn't expect the pair of them to pass me. I thought it was going to be one or the other. We're now down to third place. We've got Viñales only a couple of tenths behind, so we really do need to try and react here and try and get back past the pair of these as soon as possible. Obviously, we've already done it once in this race on the brakes into turn 1, so can we do it again? We picked up a little track limits 1 in there. I'll tell you what, we'll make sure we don't pass them, because it's a little bit unfair with the exit. So I'll brake where they brake, compromise myself a little bit through turn 1. Oh, that was risky for Marquez. I reckon Marquez wants this win here. He's going for Bezzecchi now. Marquez seems to be the fastest rider on track now, so Bezzecchi is trying to win his first race in this career mode, but Marc Marquez equally trying to win his first race as well. He's been nowhere really aside from at Mugello, and he wants to try and get that victory here at the Dutch TT. Oh, Bezzecchi made a bit of a mistake there. Marquez is really looking desperate for this pass now. Bezzecchi's going way too defensive. He's gone on the curb. What is he doing? Marquez is surely going to have the inside through the Ducas. He's not quite able to stick it on the inside, but Bezzecchi is defending way too hard, really. I'm going to try and take advantage of anything that happens between these two in front, but Viñales comes up the inside of me through the Rams hook. We're going to have to try and get Viñales back into the timber chicane. Round the outside we go. Marquez is looking at the inside of Bezzecchi through the timber chicane now as well. We had Viñales there on that occasion trying to get the inside of me, but Bezzecchi actually got a really good run through there. So as we start the final lap of the race, Bezzecchi's actually got a bit of a lead now over Marc Marquez. So I've got a bit of fuel in reserve, so maybe, just maybe I can use a bit of power through on this straight and try and make a pass. We can look at the inside of Marquez into Strubben. We've got a bit earlier than I expected, so there we go. We've passed Marc Marquez. He might get us on the exit there. He might have that drive. He does as he goes up the straight. A bit of contact with Marquez. Oh, that was strange on the curb there. Don't know what Marquez was doing. He sort of came towards us a bit, then rolled off the throttle. So Bezzecchi, I think, has got this one in the back now because Marquez sort of allowed him to get too far away. Well, it wasn't actually Marquez's fault because I was the attacker. But Bezzecchi made a bit of a mistake once again through the bulls. It seems to be this section of the track where Marco is struggling. Maybe it's his tyres, maybe it's something else, I'm not too sure, but I think he has got the advantage because they are quicker than me through this next section 100%, so even if I get a really good run through, I'm not going to be quick enough to catch him through the chicane. So here we go, they're down towards the final chicane. Can we close up to Bezzecchi at all? Because right up to the back of it, can we try and get him to the line? Through the chicane we go. We've tried to get him to the line, but we've messed it up slightly, so Bezzecchi wins here at Assen. Second place for us. Marquez rounds off the podium. Well, fair play to Marco Bezzecchi in that one there. He did manage to beat me. I just managed to get ahead of Marc Marquez. I think maybe if we had another lap, I could have had a look at attacking Bezzecchi, to be honest. It just seemed that, like, we lost too much time battling. Me and Marquez had the weird collision on the straight. I'm not sure what happened. I think maybe I came across onto him a little bit, but the AI just overreacted and had a weird amount of lean angle on the straight, and it caused a bit of an incident. We sort of just both rolled off the throttle a bit, and it allowed Bezzecchi to get away. But fair play, Bezzecchi did have it good the whole race. He was running good pace. You can see, if I look at the fastest laps, the pace we showed at the end was really, really good because I did a 31.8, Marquez did a 31.9. Those must have been the last laps of the race. Even with our contact, we were sort of right there battling, doing the fastest laps of the race because we were a little bit quicker than Bezzecchi, who did a 32 dead. But even still, unbelievable pace for the AI. We were almost at qualifying pace by the end. I thought, to be honest, it would be an easier race from that, especially after the first lap where I started to pull away. But then I had the transgression, we went onto the green. I obviously gave back that time. Ultimately, I little regret that. I gave back about half a second, lost by less than 0.3 of a second. So I probably would have won the race had I not given that time up. And perhaps I would have had a bit more of a gap because I think I got up to like over a second. And once you're over a second, it starts to become a bit easier to pull that gap out. You know, when it's under a second as well, it's easier for the rider behind to sort of have that sniff and try and close up. But that's the way the race went. Bezzecchi, not really a championship contender at this point, so I'm absolutely happy to take that on because neither is Marc Marquez, neither is Vinales, neither is Martin, and neither is Oliveira. So the closest championship contender really is 7th place Jack Miller. So we've really gained a lot of points there on some of the other riders. But where have they actually finished? The two Ducatis in particular. Bastianini in 21st, Bagnaia in 22nd. So last and second to last, 12 and 13 seconds off respectively, where Binder, the rider ahead, is 7 seconds off. That suggests to me that they might have had a bit of an accident. Bastianini 31.3 as well as his fastest lap. I do find that a little bit hard to believe because they should have been on pole position then really if they could do those lap times in the race. But there you go, that is the simulated times. Sometimes they're a little bit weird. So we retake the lead of the championship, pretty much reverted to how it was previously. Obviously I scored only 1 point in the last race and he won, so pretty much all of that undone plus 1 point in my favour. So we're now 14 points clear of Bastianini. He actually only moves down to 2nd place in the championship though. Jack Miller actually remains in 3rd place. Marco Bezzecchi moves up to 4th. Marc Marquez up to 5th. So even though I said those guys weren't championship rivals, they're actually not that far behind. Bezzecchi's less than a race win. Bezzecchi's just over a race win. And Marc Marquez is, you know, he's cracking on for 2 race wins, I guess, with 38 points there. But not completely out of it. So maybe I don't want to count my chickens too early. But I think it is going to be Bastianini and Jack Miller, the main riders that I am focusing on. As for the Teams Championship, then we actually moved back ahead into the lead, as you'd expect, because neither of the Ducati Lenovo bikes scored points. I won the race. Alex Marquez got another solid top 10, so that allowed us to retake the lead ahead of our factory counterparts. Red Bull KTM Factory Racing stay in 3rd place, 4th for Mooney VR46 after that win for Bezzecchi. And Prima Private Racing with a good result there for Jorge Martin move up to 5th. So finally, onto the Constructors' Championship, and once again, only 5 points have been dropped by Ducati this whole season. Another Ducati win. Ducati are dominating this championship. 83 points now clear of KTM in 2nd place, 109 clear of Yamaha in 3rd. Honda in 4th place, only 3 points back of Yamaha now, and 5th place for Aprilia. So I will have a little look at the replay, see if there was an incident between the two factory Ducatis. If there was, I will show that. But if not, we'll just head straight back to the career hub and we'll see what we got from this weekend. So there actually wasn't an incident between the two of them, but Bagnaia did have a crash at turn 1 as I thought he might have done. I don't know why, I just felt like it might have been Bagnaia or Bastianini out the first corner because I'm pretty sure something similar happened in Mugello. I feel like Bagnaia got a bad result there after a yellow flag. I think it must have been him, but it was completely his own fault. He completely cut the corner. I don't know what he was doing. Tried to pass Zarco and just crashed into Zarco. So that would definitely be a penalty in my books, even though he fell off. But I guess his race was ruined from that one. So Bastianini, he was an unfortunate victim of the bolt, as we see on board with him into the bolt on the curb. The front starts to go, and as he gets on the throttle, it just comes the rest of the way around. But as he rejoins the circuit, there was a little incident between the two of them. So we were kind of right. I thought they must have knocked each other off initially because they were so close to each other and so far down the order. It would be really weird for them to have actually had 2 incidents and for that to take place. But they did crash. It was just after they'd already crashed. Bagnaia just goes straight into the back of Bastianini. So a factory Ducati civil war there. Not ideal for the pair of them. So from that weekend then we gained 9,200 reputation, which takes us up to 284,800. As for the credits, we've got 29,280, which takes it to 761,428. So here we are then, back in the career hub. We've actually got something on the contract management. So it was just a couple of teams that are now interested in us. Red Bull KTM Factory Racing and also Pramac. I've still got a notification. I have a feeling that might be Suzuki. I think we might have maybe passed the threshold for Suzuki also. So it might just be a notification there because I can't read that, of course, because I'm not actually in the game anymore. But we may as well advance forward a couple of weeks to the Kazakhstan Grand Prix. I actually received a proposal which is interesting. Proposal received. Okay, so it's for next season. I don't know if it's going to be effective immediately, because if it was going to be effective immediately, I'd actually consider asking you guys whether we should swap to Aprilia Racing, because they've now requested to sign us, of course. I mean, let me know if you'd be interested in us swapping to Aprilia midway through this season. Maybe that's something I could orchestrate. Maybe that's something I could do behind the scenes with the mods. I'm not 100% sure, so do let me know, and we'll have a look, see if that's possible. But if not, then I'll have to just leave it. But it's quite interesting there that we have got a proposal. But there we go then. We've advanced up to the Kazakhstan Grand Prix. Obviously not taking place in real life, but because I'd already started the season, it's going to be on the calendar again. I mean, let me know if you want me to also try and remove the Kazakhstan Grand Prix. I'll also do that, because of course I'm not going there in real life. So let me know about whether you want me to try and swap to Aprilia mid-season, or to remove the Kazakhstan Grand Prix. Not sure whether I can actually do either of them, but it's potentially possible that I can try and mod the game and remove those two aspects from my current save. It is a bit more difficult trying to edit a currently ongoing career mode season. But overall, a pretty decent weekend there. A bit of a shame to get mugged by Marco Bezzecchi, but I was pretty happy that we did manage to get Marc Marquez back and at least beat him. I think if we'd had a couple more laps, I think we could have probably beat Bezzecchi, because I think he'd started to struggle a lot with his tyres. I was actually quite surprised that Marquez hadn't pulled a pass on Bezzecchi, because Bezzecchi was going really, really defensive, and it costed him a lot, and he was making a lot of mistakes. And I think ultimately, maybe if I hadn't attacked Marc, he would have attacked Bezzecchi, but I'd have then probably finished third, so I had to go for Marc what I saw fit, and I thought maybe if I passed him, I'd get the exit and be able to pass Bezzecchi too, but we had this little incident, and I just did not have the drive compared to them because I'd gone so tight, so I did probably misjudge that one slightly, but we did gain a position out of it, so it was probably worth going for, especially when our rivals were much further down the order. But I hope you guys did enjoy that one. Like I said, let me know about the things I did say there about the Kazakhstan Grand Prix and Aprilia. Obviously, I can't guarantee them, like I said, but do let me know what you think about them in the comments below. But like I said, I hope you did enjoy that video. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I hope you're all staying safe, and I shall see you in the next one.